Hello, I'm going to run through a few more of these Gothic paperbacks from the 1960s and 70s. And this time I'm going to end with a couple of recommendations because people in the comments I've read have asked me which ones are any good. So I'm going to pick some out for you. This first one I'm showing is a really nice paperback library published Gothic, The House of Terror by Edward Woodward. I don't know if that's the actor Edward Woodward, but the illustration is great. It's got a tall house, a girl with a candle, and a mystery man with a cape on. The reason I particularly like this one is because the artwork was reused on a DC Sinister House of Secret Love comic. It seems like they used the same artwork. They kind of coloured it in differently, but also, which is very amusing, I think, to me anyway, they gave the man a gondola. He's got an oar, I'm sorry, I don't know what they're called, and a gondola, and he's on water. When the original picture, he's on land, but it works really well. There's actually more of the house visible as well. But yes, so that's the second one of these books I found that matches or has had its illustration reused for a DC Gothic romance comic. They were very fashionable for a very short time, those comics, not as long as the books were fashionable. But so there's the first one. A couple more now, these are very random. This is called The Drawstring by Douglas Locke. Strange name from a Gothic. Says here it's going to be a film. I don't know if that actually happened. I have a feeling this is a reprint of a story that wasn't really supposed to be a Gothic. I haven't read it yet. It looks like it's going to be quite a dry, dusty old book. No, it was written in 1966, which is when this copy was published. But I don't know. I'm not sure that's going to be very interesting. The title is quite strange. What is The Drawstring? Don't know. Here's another one. This is much nicer. This is Avon, and it's called Castle at Glen Carris by Jean Vickery. I've said this in previous videos. Avon books always seem to be in much poorer condition than others, but this one is not. This one is beautiful. The castle is fantastic. You can see every brick and crack. Heroine dashing for her life across a bridge. That's very exciting. There's a light in the window as well. And the moon. Really nice illustrator. I don't know who that is, but I have seen images like this before. I haven't read this one yet, but let's hope it's as exciting as the cover promises. Here's one that I've actually had before. This is Fog Island by Marilyn Ross, which is W.E.D. Ross, a male writer. I used to have this on Popular Library, which I wish I'd kept it because the cover on the Popular Library one was much nicer than this. I don't like this artist. His buildings always look slightly wrong. He always uses these spindly flower stems with blobs of yellow on them. I just don't like his work, sorry. He's clearly a good painter, but I don't like the way he does covers. Yeah, I should have kept the Popular Library one, but I didn't have it anymore. I decided to rebuy a copy, so I got this paperback library one. But I don't think I'm going to keep that. It wasn't actually a very good book either. Now, here's 3 books from a series I've been collecting, which is Coronet. This is a British publisher. So if you don't live in the UK, you wouldn't have much chance of picking them up. They're not great, these covers. This one is called A Place with Two Faces, Josephine Mann, which is nice to have a ghost with a knife on the front. Lady with very modish clothes there. Mistress of Orion Hall by Claudette Nicole. She looks like she's going to a party. I don't think that's particularly impressive. And Fawcett, that's interesting. And then this is Dorothy Daniels, who is an established writer, or we think she's a real person. It might be her husband, Norman Daniels. Curse of Mallory Hall. Again, this lady looks like she's going to a cocktail party in a country house with some friends. She doesn't look particularly frightened. So not all of these covers for the Coronets are very good. I mentioned Fawcett because typically these are all published in the US on Fawcett, the publisher Fawcett. But I do like the fact that they all use the same font. Yeah, I mean, that matters, does it? It matters to me. So 3 more. I think I've got 7 or 8 of those now. Here's a publisher I've never seen before. Apollo? Never heard of them. But Mona Farnsworth I have heard of, and this is House of Deadly Calm. There's a lovely house in the background. the way this woman is running with her dress pulled right up, that's not very elegant. I don't know why you would hold your dress that high when you were running away from a house. I think that's a bit of a mistake. It's an odd one. Again, Apollo, who the hell are Apollo books? If you love it, you can buy another story about Aunt Deirdre in Ransom Castle. But I read a Mona Farnsworth book called The Evil That Waited, and it was dreadful. It was terrible. So I'm not sure I can be bothered to read that one if her reputation is going to be continued with this. Here's another weird one, Web of Fear by Mary Reisner. This is Belmont. Belmont do a few Gothics, but this does not look great. I've seen that house before. If you've watched the previous videos of mine, that is St Michael's Mount in Cornwall, that house. Looks kind of fun. It's not a great, that's not a very accomplished painting. I've tried to read this and I gave up because it was boring. So not recommended. Lovely huge lettering of the title, although when it was originally published it was called Four Witnesses, which doesn't sound exciting at all, but it sounds more thrilling being called Web of Fear. But classed as a Belmont Gothic, so maybe they just dressed up an existing book. This one I think I bought by mistake. This is dressed up as a Gothic. This is from Dell. I don't often buy Dell. The Man in the Garden, Madness and Evil, Nightmare of Terror. They always say things like that. When I read it, I found it was more like a home invasion story about a woman being terrorised with children. I didn't like it. It wasn't very nice. It was a rather unpleasant story. It's not nightmarish and horrific. It's just more like, someone being terrorised. I don't recommend that, and it's not really a Gothic. And then finally, good old popular library, The Witches of Wind Lake by Miriam Lynch, with a lovely blood red sky and a woman in a kind of witchy cape, drifting around outside a huge castle. This is actually about witches, and it was quite good fun. Miriam Lynch, the author, is not afraid of writing proper supernatural books, and there's a lot of witchery going on in this one. There are even little familiar animals, red-eyed, sharp-toothed creatures running around the house after dark. So there's a lot of supernatural goings on in that one. So good old popular library for bringing that out. This picture has been used on another book called Witch Love, which I don't recommend. But popular library reusing their illustrations again. I used to have Witch Love, but I got rid of it because it was so bad. So that was good. And on that note, as I said at the start of this, some people have asked me to recommend the books that I've read. The problem is I can never remember them because I've read so many, but I've picked out 5 that I would recommend. The first one is Dark of Summer by Deanna Dwyer. It's a shame that this is a good one, ironically, because it's really hard to find. If you want to buy a copy of this, you're looking at over $100 on online auctions, because it's Dean Koontz, and apparently he didn't want it republished, so he either bought it all or bought the rights or something like that. So anyone who's got a copy who's selling it charges a lot of money for it. But it was slightly better than other Gothics, I guess, just because he had more imagination. It's still written to formula, but I'm recommending it with reservations because it's almost impossible to find a copy of it. The next one is this one. The cover is fantastic. I reviewed this I've showed the cover in one of my earlier videos. But surprisingly, the book actually lives up to the cover. It's a real Hammer horror Gothic story with a castle, people in stagecoaches, villagers in their taverns being suspicious, people really terrorised. The heroine is terrorised in the castle by the owners. It was kind of a fun adventure, so that was a good one. Recommendation number 3 is this one, Scarecrow House by Jean Hines. I'm recommending this because it's a really weird story. The menace element comes from scarecrows, which are dotted all around the house, and they appear to come alive at night. And I found that really creepy. It was quite well written, and the mystery of the scarecrows coming alive is what I remember about it. If I remember them at all, it's either because they're very good or very bad. So I pulled these 5 off the shelves because I could actually remember what was in them. If I can't remember them, it means they are totally worthless. This is one of my favourites. I've said this before. This is a recommendation section. I recommend having a look at this. It's a full-on ghost story about a haunting, and I found it really frightening. If you read it at night, you might regret it. Simple book, not very big. Got, you know, it doesn't have any airs and graces, but well done for, that's a pen name, Victor J. Bownis wrote this. And he wrote a winner with that one. So pick that up. It's not very rare. You can probably find it. And the final recommendation is Image of Evil by Rosemarie Crawford. I recommend this because it's set in a swamp, and there's the part of the book where the heroine is trapped in the swamp, like covered in muck and trying to get out of the swamp. And I remember that being very vivid and well written. So fairly standard Gothic, but I enjoyed the plight of the swamp, and it was very atmospherically described. So those are recommendations. I think in the next video I might pick out the 5 worst ones that I've ever read. Sometimes I get rid of them if they're too bad. So if I've still got 5 of the bad ones, I'll show you what they are. That's it.